this is the Diary of a Hyperactive Crafter. My name is Melissa and I'm coming to you from Springboro, Ohio, where I live with my husband and our 2 cats. Today is Friday, January 31st, and I have lots of crafty things to share with you today. So if you are a new viewer, thank you so much for checking out my video. I hope you like what I have to share. If you are a returning viewer, thank you for coming back. I do want to say thank you to all of my new subscribers as well as my previous subscribers. I got quite a few new people that followed me after my last WIP parade. So I'm glad that you guys liked what you saw, like some of the projects that I'm working on, and I just love being a part of this community and being able to share some of the fun things that I've been doing. So just to give a little bit of an overview of today's video, I have 2 cross-stitch WIPs that I have been working on pretty monogamously for the last 3 weeks. It has been about 3 weeks since my WIP parade. I have a knitting project that I am very close to finishing that I wanted to share with you. And I have a knitting FO that I wanted to share, as well as a crochet project that I've been working on as well. I also have some planned new starts in February that I wanted to talk about. I am not going to go through acquisitions today just because there have been a lot, because if you are a returning video viewer and you've seen some of my previous episodes, you know that I pretty much have no self-control when it comes to buying craft supplies. When it comes to, you know, paying for mundane things that are necessary to keep a household running, I am very cheap, but when it comes to crafting supplies, I typically just lose my mind. So I think that there's a lot of you that can relate. So there's too much to like gather and bring in. So I figure I'll just show the acquisitions as I start to use them up. And that might change in the future, but just for today, for time's sake, decided not to bring those in. So anyway, that was a lot. So let's just jump right in and get started, since it's already been over 2 minutes. But so the first project that I worked on pretty monogamously is the New Normal by Long Dog Samplers. This is where I was last time you guys saw it. I think I took this picture pretty close to when my WIP parade was uploaded. It may have been a little bit after, but it gives you a good idea. And then here is where I'm at now. So I've made quite a bit of progress on this. I have put in the month of January, I have put in 7,948 stitches on this project. So quite a bit, if you ask me. So I'm at 43% finished now. So I didn't write down how many total stitches I have in this project, but I think it's a little over 13,000. Total. So I made a lot of progress on this month. Since you guys have last seen it, I've put in 5,837 stitches. So this did have a bit of progress in the beginning of January before I showed it on my WIP parade. And I worked on it quite a bit since then. So the fabric is Cardiff by Live and Dye LA. And this was a piece of fabric that I picked up at Stitching in the Springs in Yellow Springs, Ohio. Thank you to those of you that commented on my last video that mentioned that Cardiff is a city in Wales. So now I'm a little more educated, so I appreciate that. And then the floss that I'm using, and I actually have this folio. So my friend Levi, who I have to shout out right now. I'm going to do shout outs later on, but he just brought back his YouTube channel. So he finally came back. So if you haven't already, go watch his video, go subscribe. It's called Oh Stitch Happens. So O exclamation point Stitch Happens exclamation point. So he actually made this as a gift for us, our table at the Stitching in the Springs retreat. And it's a project portfolio. And it's amazing. So he has these pockets, fabulous lined pockets. His sewing is so amazing. And the zipper pockets over here, that's what I have my floss in. So the floss is called Space Oddity. So I did not have this information for you in my WIP parade, so now I do. So it's Live and Dye LA Space Odyssey. And I have quite a bit of floss left. I think that I'm going to be okay on floss. I actually, when I started this, I did a middle start because for a couple of reasons. One, I had already started Pandemic, and the New Normal is the follow-up companion piece to Pandemic, and Pandemic is massive. So when I started the new normal, I was like, oh, this is not going to fit on the small piece of fabric, but it did. But I was really worried about running out of space. So I did a center start. And as you can see, I have a lot of extra space that I'm going to have at the top and the bottom of the piece. And so I kind of wish I wouldn't have done that and that I would have started closer to the top, which I think Levi did that. But anyway, so the point that I was trying to make, I don't quite remember. So I have not been doing the borders yet because I was worried about the amount of floss that I had, and I was worried that I might run out. So so I am saving the borders for last, which I know I'm going to be regretting that decision eventually, but it'll be fine. It'll be potato chip stitching. So that is my first project that I really spent a lot of time on. So my goal for, I did meet my January goal for this project, and that goal was to put in 2 strands a day. So Levi mentioned he has a little trick he does where he picks a project and he does a strand a day, and he pretty much guarantees himself a finish that year. So I chose to do 2 strands a day every other month on this because I have a short attention span. So I knew that if I tried to do it every day of the year that I would like just quit halfway through and it would never get any work. So 2 days, 2 strands a day, every other month. That means 62 strands pretty much because I'm doing it on the long months. So this will get put away until March, where I'll pull it back out and hopefully get a lot of good progress. And I think about 2.5 more months of work on this and it's going to be a finish, which is really great because I just started it in November. So this might be like the biggest piece that I've finished in that period of time, which would be nice. The only other cross stitch project that I worked on is my Pokemon project. This is the Epic All Generation Pokemon cross stitch, I believe is what it's called, from Lord Libiden. And so this is where I was last time you saw it. Since then, I have added about 1,484 stitches on it. I didn't want to take it out of the hoop because it took a lot of work to get it in here. So I didn't want to take it out. But I don't know that it's going to look much different for you guys just because I don't feel like I see a huge difference from the last time, even though I've added about 2,000 stitches, or I guess it's only been 1,500 stitches. But overall, I have made quite a bit of progress on it for the month because this is pretty much what I was focusing on before I released my WIP braid for January. So overall for the month, I put in 5,697 stitches. So my goal for this one is for the entire year, I would like to average about 100 to 500 stitches a day. So I'm right around 185, 190 stitches a day right now with the 5,000. I'll probably hit 6,000 because today's the last day of the month. So I'll probably put some stitches on this tonight and hit at least 6,000. So with the 6,000 stitches in January, I'm right in line with that. I would prefer to be getting 500 stitches a day on this, but that's just not realistic, especially with all the other projects that I want to work on. So I'm just hoping that I will continue to just chug away on this. You guys will probably see this quite often in my videos. Because the plan is to continue to work on it. And I have really great lighting today, so this looks absolutely fabulous. So I'll just give you a little close-up view. Some of the things that I specifically know that I've done a lot of work on this month is this guy right here. I don't know these Pokemon names. I'm not the Pokemon. I like Pokemon. I've played it growing up. I watched the cartoon, the anime, whatever it is. My husband, this is for him. So, and this is really one of those, like, if there's a project, like I think I've mentioned this in other videos, if it sounds crazy and not a lot of people are going to do it, then I'm going to be the one to do it because I like the challenge. So I like being able to say that I've done something that not a lot of people have done. So that's pretty true in my day-to-day life. So anyway, this guy got a lot of work this month. This guy got a lot of work. And then I've done a lot of fill-in over here. So I guess I'll you know, I don't have a whole lot to talk about today, so I'll go into a little bit of the specifics about how I work on this project. I think I mentioned in my WIP parade, but so what I do is I work in columns and I go page by page. So for example, today I'll come in and there's some fill in I've got to do in the eyes and mouth right here. So I'll just pick the next color and I will stitch all of that color that I can possibly stitch within the frame, as long as I don't have to count too far. If I have to count more than like 15 stitches, I'm not going to do it, because I'm not going to take the risk of messing up like a big motif like this and having it in the wrong spot. So if it's easy to get to and it's within the area of my frame or my hoop, then I go ahead and stitch it since I have the color out. I have a master set that's in a file box, and I use the Annie's Keepers and sliders. So I just keep it sitting right next to me on the couch as I'm stitching. So since I have that slide out and that color out, I just use it while it's there. And I really like that, because then it makes it so that I'm doing a combination of both fill-in and outlining and confetti. So I never really have like these moments where I feel like I'm doing all confetti or all outlining or all fill in, because I pretty much rotate through it. Because as I'm doing fill in over here, I'm doing outline over here. So as you can see with the green, so last night I worked on the green. I put in about 700 stitches last night. And I did the green on this guy, did this green up here, this over here, and then this green down here. So it works out that way. I really like stitching that way. Let me talk about my hoop, because I think when I've showed this, and actually I always take this out of the frame normally, but I was a huge Q-snap, like, I don't know, ambassador. Like, I was like, there's no better frame than a Q-snap to stitch out of. I hate stitching out it by hand, like in hand, stitching in hand. I've given it a shot and it's just not for me. My fingers are really short and I have a hard time. My hands are really small holding the fabric and stitching at the same time. And Q-snaps are too heavy to stitch in hand. So I normally don't stitch unless I have my stand available. And I even have two travel stands that I use. I have the Lowry table clamp. And I also have, and I can't remember what it's called. I was talking to friends last night and I don't remember what it's called, but it's like the Z lap stand. I don't remember the brand, but we'll talk about that another day. I have both of those. It's like the, anyway, I digress. So, but the Q-snaps, especially for these bigger projects, when you have this much fabric kind of like weighing on them, they're too heavy. And so I had this in a scroll frame, but I could not get the tension right. This is a massive project. I mean, it's very wide, and I have the largest size American Dream scroll frame that I could get. And I just can't get the tension right on it, no matter how hard I try. So I kind of got tired with that. So I had switched back to a Q-snap, which again, Q-snap with this much fabric was too heavy. So it was constantly pulling on my stand and I couldn't get my stand tight enough. And I just felt like I was constantly fighting with it. Well, I was watching the tattooed stitcher, so Jordan, and she mentioned that she uses her Nerge hoops. So these are the Nerge wooden hoops, and I got them on 1-2-3 Stitch. They were on sale. I think this one was maybe like $12. So this is the Nerge number 8. So I got a number 8, a number 7, and a number 6. So the number 7 I used with my new normal project to kind of test it out, and it worked out very well. I will say that I have to be very careful with pulling on the fabric, because I tend to like a very tight the tension, and so it can sometimes warp the fabric, so just be cautious with that. But so this is the size 8. I use the size 7 with the new normal, and it was perfect. I loved it. So then the other thing that she does, that she mentioned, is she buys 1/2-inch twill tape off of Amazon, and she wraps it around the inside hoop. So this is my inside hoop, this is my outside. She wraps it around and then whip stitches the ends together, and that just kind of helps keep the tension, so your fabric's not pulling out. And it has been working wonderfully. I have stitched on Pokemon, I think 3 nights in a row now in the hoop, and I love it. I'm a convert. This is going to be much better when I travel, because I'll actually be able to put it in my Z frame lap stand or whatever it is, and it won't be like tipping. And I'm very excited to have found, for her to have shared that and to find this method, because I love it. I'm a new convert. I will say that I also started stitching flipping. So originally when I started stitching in the hoop, I had my front like on the main side. But I've started stitching this way because I don't remember if it was Natasha from Britches Get Stitches. I've been watching a lot of Flosstube, so I don't remember who said it, but somebody said that they they put their fabric this way instead of the opposite way. So that way when you're weaving in ends in the back, you have more room to work with because your needle's not hitting the frame. And I was like, that is genius, because otherwise you have to take out like an inch all the way around to leave room to weave in ends. So that's what I've been doing, and I really love it. This is, I tend to like I like to try different materials and different ways of stitching though. So can't say this will be my preferred method forever, but it's my preferred for right now. And I think it's wonderful, especially with the amount of fabric I have to manage with this project. So total, that's all that I worked on cross stitch wise in January. So far I've done 13,645 stitches for the month of January. I plan to add a few hundred tonight, so I'm hoping to I will hit probably, as long as I get to stitch tonight, 14,000. So I'm excited. I think that is a great stitching number. And tonight I'm going to work on Pokemon. I have not tried this yet. I love the strawberry one. The cherry one is not my favorite, but we're going to try the orange. Light orange flavor. I think I like it better than the cherry. Before I move into knitting and crochet, let me talk about my stitchy plans for February. So my stitchy goal for Pokemon remains the same. So that will still be a goal to have 100 to 500 stitches on average for the month of February. So with 28 days, that's hopefully another 4,500 to 5,000 stitches minimum is what I'm looking for. And then instead of working on the new normal, my other goal is to get some page finishes on my Quaker patterns. I mentioned in my WIP parade, I am not a mood stitcher. I'm sorry, I'm not a seasonal stitcher. I'm more of a mood stitcher. So for my winter Quaker, autumn Quaker, summer Quaker, and eventually when I start it, spring Quaker, I always start them in the right season, but I never like really have the drive to actually work on them. And I'm pretty sure I said knitting. I meant cross stitching. I never have the drive to work on them. And so my goal is to take the patterns take my WIP as it stands today and get a page finish on it for the month of February. So that way in March when I start spring, I have at least one page, if not 2 pages done for each of the other projects. So I'll start with summer because this is the last one I started. So this is Summer Quaker by Rosewood Manor. And this is on Picture This Plus 28 count truffle. And this fabric is fabulous. It's not showing up as pink as what it is in real life, but if it looks for you what it looks like in my camera right now, it's pretty good. And I am using the Valdani Floss. I like them. A lot of people are hot and cold on them. I don't have any issues with them. I love them. So I think they're pretty. I like the texture that they provide. They are very thick, but I like that it provides some texture to the piece. So I'm happy with it. And I think because I'm doing it on 28 count, I think that's why I don't have an issue with it. So anyway, there's that. And I just showed these in my WIP parade, so sorry if this is boring. So I want to get the first page done on this. And then the next one that I have is going out of order here, but this is Winter Quaker. So this is the one that I should be stitching right now. So as you can see, I think that I want to say this is just one page. Yeah. I think that this goes over, but only because it's like back stitching. So I looked forward. So I have one page done on Winter Quaker. It's gorgeous. I freaking love it so much. I love all these. I love the patterns. I love the flosses. I love the fabrics. So this is 28 count. Picture This Plus as well. I think it's the called for linen. I don't know the name of this color, but and I don't have the sticker on here anymore. I don't think, unless it's on the inside. Let me see. Nope, not on the inside. So my goal for this would be to start page 2 and finish page 2. Now these are stretch goals. It depends on how much stitching time I have in February, which February is going to be a very busy month for me. So these are, I think that my friends are calling them intentions this year instead of goals. So that way, if you don't meet the goals, it's not like you failed. It's just the intention was to stitch a page on this. But unfortunately, we ran out of time. But that's okay because that's life. And I will get into like life updates at the end on what's going on with me in February. It's just gonna be a busy month. And then this is Autumn Quaker, which is one of my favorite. I love them all. I want to say this one's my favorite, but also winter's my favorite, but also I love summer because of the pink, and I'm going to love spring too. So 28 counts, picture this plus. This one is called Doubloon, but it's gorgeous. So I do have page 2 started on this one. And so this one should be a pretty quick check mark for me because I think that I am at over halfway through the second page. I think I might be wrong, but anyway, just gorgeous. I love it. And I absolutely love my lighting today. So those are the stitchy plans for that. I'm going to have 2 new starts. So in my last video, I talked about how I was going to be very intentional with my new starts. And then life lifed and people, there are so many amazing creators that I've seen on Instagram recently, and I've basically been going to their Etsy shops and just adding all of my favorites of their patterns to my cart. So there is, okay, sorry. One of my neighbors was walking by and they had on a hoodie and I was reading their hoodie and then I laughed. Regardless, moving on. So, anyway, what was I saying? Oh, new starts. So anyway, there's been a lot of great creators recently. I bought a lot of digital patterns on Etsy over the last couple weeks. And I've had some friends that have been like saying, I want to start this. Let's start this. Let's start that. Let's start this. And I'm like, well, you know what? I might as well. I have it. Might as well start it. So the first one that I'm going to start is called, I didn't write down any of the names, so I might have to look. But anyway, the first one I'm going to start with my friend Kim is called Butterfly Bouquet, and I think it's from Lupine Stitches, but I'll put all the information on the screen as well as a picture of what it is. I'm not sure what fabric I'm going to use yet. I'm going to use the called for DMC floss. I have a master set, so I don't really have to kit anything up. If I'm missing floss, I'll just run over to Joann's and get it. But I think I have all the floss I need. As far as fabric goes, I haven't picked out fabric. But I'm going to stash dive. I am a part of the monthly Be Stitch Me Club, and I get both the neutrals and the colors every month. And then every couple months I switch like the count that I get or what type. So I think I did like 20 count Ada for most of the year last year just because I was on like a 20 count Ada kick for whatever reason. And then I recently switched to, I think 36 count linen. So, I did get my January fabric of the month. If I recall, it's pink, and I think it would work really well with that pattern. So I'm just going to pull what I have and play around with some different color combinations and see which one's going to be the best fit. So I think I'm going to start that on Valentine's Day with my friend Kimmy, and I'll probably work on it, for a day or 2, maybe 3, because our wedding anniversary is on the 16th. So I figured it's kind of a cute little love bug pattern. So maybe I'll work on it on the 14th and the 16th. And if I'm doing that, I might as well work on it on the 15th as well. So anyway, so that'll be a small start. I don't plan to like put a ton of stitches in it, but I will start that project. And then the second one that I'm going to start, I'm going to have to pause and go get the information for that. The second project that I'm going to start is with Levi, and it's called Pink Santa by Pink Lily Patterns. And I was feeling kind of guilty because I'm going to start a stitch along with Kim. And I've been telling Levi that I wasn't going to be doing any new starts for a while. So every time he's like, oh, I like this, I'm like, yeah, that's cute, but not right now. Or every time I buy something, he's like, we should start it. And I'm like, not now. Because I think the beginning of the month, I bought a bunch of Carolyn Manning patterns because they were on sale. And then he's like, when are we starting? And I'm like, we're not. I'm not. So he sent me a picture of, he sent me a link to this stained glass Santa pattern. He's like, I love this. And I was like, I love that too. But let me see what else she has because that's not like my favorite style. So I look through, or not style, it's not my favorite, like it just doesn't really match my aesthetic. So I looked through and I found Pink Santa, which is pink stained glass Santa. And I was like, now this is more me. So I went and I bought 32 count easy grid from 123 stitch, so hopefully that ships soon. I plan to do 1/1 full cross, which is how I'm doing my Tudor allegory pattern, and I really like it, so I'm going to do it on this one too. And the main reason I do that is because 25 count with a piece like this, it's just going to be a bit too big. I don't want something that big. So by going down in stitch count, it shrinks it by just a bit. So it's just a little bit smaller. Plus I use one strand versus two. I don't really have a preference over one strand versus two. I just don't have very many projects that I'm knitting or cross stitching with one strand. The new normal I didn't mention is one strand over two on 40 count. So I started to do that a little more and figured I would do it with this project since it is full coverage. So those are my two planned starts for February. I'm not sure when I'll start Pink Santa. It'll probably be whenever we both get the supplies and we're able to start it. I'll just be like, hey, today's the day, you know, and put a few stitches in. So I'll add a few WIPs to my pile. So that is my February intentions with cross stitch. So I want to talk real quick before I get into the other stuff about do some stitchy shout outs. So I've been watching a lot of Flosstube. I can't get enough. I ran out of videos of all my regulars, so now I have to go find new ones. It's been wonderful. But there are 3 Flosstubers that I want to shout out in this video because A, because they're great, B, because I'm all caught up on all of their videos, and C, they were all my table mates at my first StitchCon in 2023. So the first one I've already mentioned earlier in this video, and that's Levi. So he does have his first Flosstube video up, and I'm so excited that he's back to vlogging again. He used to do it as a knitting channel under WTF Knitting, and now he is doing it under Flosstube channel, Floss Stitch channel, Stitch Happens. So hopefully his information is somewhere here for you guys. And I'll try to link them down below as well. I haven't been very good at doing all that kind of stuff, but I'm going to try to get better. Number 2 is Stitching Spencer. So she's Stitching Spencer on Instagram and YouTube. She was also one of my table mates. She's wonderful. She's fabulous. Her and my husband have a lot of the same interest, and it's just, you know, she's my age and we just get along really well. And her mom, Kim, actually, and it's not my friend Kimmy from Cleveland, but her mom, Kim, actually came with Levi and I to Stitching in the Springs. And actually, I think it was her idea. So really, we went with her to Stitching in the Springs in November, and we had a blast with her as well. So I definitely recommend you go check out her channel. She doesn't have that many videos. So if you're the type, if you're like me, where you have to go back and watch them all to get caught up, it shouldn't take you too long, and her stuff is wonderful. The third one is one that I feel like, let me just talk about first. So the third one is Natasha from Britches Get Stitches. So I subscribed to her back when we went to StitchCon in 2023, and for whatever reason, I think just because I haven't been watching a lot of YouTube videos, I never actually fully caught up with all of her videos. I would watch 1 or 2 here or there, and I liked them, but I never went back and rewatched them. So this past week, I was doing some sewing things, which we'll talk about sewing stuff in the next video, because hopefully I'll have some things to show. But I was doing some sewy stuff, sewing prep, and I was watching her videos, and I just like, she lives so close to me. Like, why are we not hanging out on a regular basis? Because we have so much in common. I absolutely love her personality. I love talking to her. I love the things that she makes. I love her vlogging videos. They're great. And so yeah, so she actually, and this is another, I'll add this in life stuff, but she does a lot of like local events, like local stitchy events. And I was like, I didn't even know this stuff existed in Dayton and Cincinnati. So I am all caught up with her, and I was so sad because I literally felt like I was spending every night for a few hours with a friend, and then all of a sudden I was all caught up on her videos, and the next night I was like, something feels off, and I was like, I really want to talk to Natasha, but like we don't talk to each other very much. So like I'm trying to like communicate more with her so that we can like become like friends in real life all the time, not just at StitchCon, because she's great. So those are the 3 videos that I wanted to shout out for this video. Yeah, I think that's it for the stitchy stuff. So I'm going to move on to knitting and crochet. So if this is where you leave me, thanks for joining. It was fun to have you here. And if not, we're going to jump right in. So I wouldn't say that I've had the nitty bug, but I have been enjoying using my stash because I have a lot of yarn stash. If you're here from my Honeybee Knits days, you know that Crafty Supply Acquisitions acquiring is not like a new thing for me. It's not just specific to cross stitch. It was definitely like its own hobby with knitting. So I've been enjoying kind of like looking through my stash and be like, oh, I forgot about this, and pulling it out and like starting to knit things up with it. It's been great. So yeah, I've been working on blankets recently. So I've made, my dad accidentally shrank his log cabin blanket that I made him. It was, long story short, it was an honest mistake. It wasn't like he wasn't trying to take care of it. He bought one of those washer dryer combos where it starts drying immediately after it washes, and he forgot to turn the dryer to air dry before he hit start, and it shrank it because it wasn't super wash. It's one of the first blankets I made. It was out of Cascade 220 non-superwash. So I bought Cascade 220 Superwash because he loves that blanket, and he was almost in tears when he called me to tell me about it. And so I bought Cascade 220 Superwash, and I re-knit it for him. Let's see if I can put up a picture here. So I re-knit that for him. And my dad actually has guardianship of his two grandkids, my stepmom's kids. So they're very young. And Noah was like, I really want this blanket. Like, I love this blanket, and he was stealing it from my dad all the time. And so he asked me right around Christmas time, he said, can you make me a blanket? I was like, I don't know, I'll have to think about it. And I was already planning on making him a blanket because dad kept telling me that he kept stealing it. So I used the leftover yarns from my dad's blanket to make the scrappy blanket for Noah. And then I was feeling a little guilty because Zoe, I knew that if I, with kids, like if one has it, the other needs it. My niece and nephew, Kira and Devin. Kira is 20 now, and Devin is 17. And so I know very much from spending time with them that if one wants it, the other one's going to want it. So I was like, I need to make Zoe a blanket as well. And so I had pulled out some sash yarn, and I started working with it. And it was the yarn bomblets from Crapola. I will go and search and see if I can put the name in here because I'm constantly forgetting it. And my friend Kim reminded me of it because I had gotten her one of these for her birthday or whatever. So anyway, I went and pulled the yarn, and I was like, I'm going to make this blanket for Zoe. And then I started working on it, and I was like, this is not going to be enough yarn. I need to order more. So I went to go buy another set of the yarn bomblets to add to the blanket, and then I saw how much they were, and I was like, I didn't realize I paid that much for these, and I am not putting 2 of these in a kid's blanket. So I immediately set that project down, and I ran to Joann's, and I picked up yarn from Joann's, and I made this blanket for her, and I sent it out to them. So she got a lovely Joann's blanket, and she is none the wiser and just as happy with it. They're both really happy with their blankets. They love them. Dad said they're happy. I'm happy. And I didn't spend $300 on a kid's blanket. So, but I did want to finish the blanket I had started with that yarn as kind of like just a lap blanket. So here it is. So I went ahead, and after I finished her blanket, I went back to working on this. And I love it. So I don't remember the name of the yarn that I used for the border and the stripes, unfortunately. I don't remember much, apparently. It's been a while since I bought it, but I just found like the pink in my stash and decided to do some stripes in between, and then do like an I-cord pinky border. So yeah, it is probably one of my most favorite finished objects that I've ever made. It's not big enough to be a blanket for an older child, but it is big enough to be like a baby blanket or like a cozy lap blanket, which is what I use for now. When I'm working, it's just on my desk chair, and I just put it on my lap, and it is nice and warm and comfy cozy, and it's soft and squishy. And so I did not use a pattern for this. What I did is I just knit until I was almost out of yarn. And then when I did the stripe, I did purl rows so that you couldn't see the color changes if it was on the wrong side. So it just ended up being garter and then stockinette stripes in between is essentially what it ended up being. And yeah, I absolutely adore it so much. I'm so happy with it. It's so bright and beautiful and colorful. And if you know me at all, you know that this is like right up my alley. So it actually really worked out. So I finished that in January. So in addition to my cross stitching goals in January, I had the goal to put a stripe on this a day. So that's what I did till it was done. And then I also, I started swatching back in the summer. I started swatching for some sweaters and cardigans because I was interviewing for new jobs, thinking I was going to have to go back into the office. And I was like, I'm going to need some comfy, cozy hand knit sweaters and cardigans for the office because it's always cold no matter what the season. And so I swatched and then I never actually started knitting them. And so this past month I picked up this, which I had started. So this is the Douglas Cardi by Andrea Mowry, and it's knit using Magpie fiber yarn. And this is the Shelby and the Book Club. They did like a collaboration when she was trying to start up her bookstore. And so, yeah, so I had bought that kit a while back and I had started, cast it on the ribbing and started it when my husband had oral surgery. He had 2 oral surgeries in 2024. And so at one of his surgeries, I casted it on and started it. And then the only time I really picked it up was when I went to like a knitting event. So I went to Wool Gathering in Yellow Springs, and some of my friends had rented a Airbnb. And they invited me over for like a little stitchy afternoon. So I went over and knitted with them for a bit. So I took it with me there. I met up with my friend Elizabeth a few times for coffee. So I would bring it with me there. And then this month I really cracked down and started really working on it. So I started doing a stripe a day again. And I got really far in January. So I don't really know how to show this, but so here it is. So in January, I think the ribbing was done before January started. I think I had some time off work around Christmas time. So I think I had gotten, a few stripes done up through the body. So I finished the body. I did the sleeves, and then I did the pockets as well. So the pockets is the last thing I finished in the last couple weeks. So I just did like a pocket a day. So that's really fun because I've never done pockets before, and I think they turned out so good. So they're not done, so they're not sewn down. So the next step, and I've been waiting, I wanted this finished in January, but I've been waiting because I wanted to show it on the video before I finished it, because the next thing that I needed to do is I actually need to wet block it. And so after I wet block it, I need to seam down the pockets, so actually close them up, and then I need to pick up and knit the button band. So now that I've shown it, probably on Sunday, because that's when I'll have time, is I will wet block this and wet block it and do the finishing work next week. So I will have a finished sweater. I keep going back and forth on February plans, and because I do have another sweater that I did 5. I swatched for 5 sweaters. So I have 5 sweaters worth minus that one. So 4 now, that are all caked up, that have been swatched for and just need to be knit. So the next one that I think that I'm going to do is an easier one as well. It's the campsite cardi. And, thought about working on it in February, but I think I just want to solely focus on cross stitch in February, to be honest, mostly because I don't know. I think I've done a lot of knitting in the last couple months, more so than what I've done like the last year. So I finished 1, 2, 3, 4 blankets and then that sweater in like the past since like October. So I think I'm going to take February off from knitting. If we get into February and I kind of get the knitting bug, I might go ahead and cast it on. Or if I need something to work, like if I go and do a meetup for coffee or something and I need something to work on, I might cast it on so I have like some ribbing to work on or something. But yeah, so I think outside of that, I don't think I'm going to set any knitting goals for February. So last year, I was like, I have all this fleechy yarn. I don't like how fleechy knits up into socks. To me, they don't wear well. So they pill really easily. They stretch out very quickly. And I mean, you can throw them in the dryer and get them to shrink back up, but it's just, they're not my favorite socks. And I have a ton of sock yarn. So I was like, I'm never going to really sit down and knit all this fleechy up into socks. And I had went through a phase, if you watch my old podcast, where every time Knit Picks Felici released their new colorways of the year, I would go and buy 2 skeins of every one, which they're 50-gram skeins, but still, it was way too much. So I was talking about how I had seen somebody do like a crochet granny square blanket off self-striping yarn. I'm like, oh, I should use my Felici yarn for that. Like, it's going to be like just this throwaway blanket, right? Like, not throwaway, but like just like rough it up blanket. Like, it's gonna pill, probably gonna wash it and dry it 500 times. It's not gonna like stay beautiful. But I was like, I should use up that fleece yarn and just make these like really colorful blankets that I could gift to people or keep here if we need them, because we always need blankets. So my friend Kim was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And I was like, Kim, I was like, I have 2 of each colorway. I can split that up and send them to you and still have plenty. And I can't remember. We did a trade, and quite honestly, I can't. Oh, that's what it was. So my nephew was living with me last year. I can't believe I forgot about this. So my nephew and my husband were begging me for like hats and gloves and scarves for wintertime. And I didn't have any like gender neutral or colors that they really like. Most of my stash is like girly girl to the max. And so she had some like they wanted Seahawks colors, and she had like some Seahawksy colors yarn. So we did a trade. So I swapped her. I sent her a bunch of fleechies. She sent me that yarn, and then it sat on my shelf, and I didn't do anything with it because that's what I do. But it's fine. Life started lifing last January, and it started lifing last October 2023, and it didn't stop until like April. So anyway, it's fine. I still love the yarn. I'm still going to use it. I still appreciate the swap. And long story short, long story long, really, because I can never tell a short story. We started Crochet Granny Square blankets last year, and the intention was to do a square a day. And Melissa did that for like 10 days and then stopped. And then they did she hosts like an Around the Table Zoom, and Around the Table Zoom group did like a square a day for like a month. And I was like, oh, let me get caught up with you halfway through the month. And I crocheted a bunch, and then I got burnt out. And I was like, I'm done. So these are the ones that I had done. And then I remembered, oh yeah, remember that crochet granny square blanket that we started like a year ago that I've gotten like 40 blocks done on? We were supposed to do 1 a day, so I should have like way over 365, and I don't remember that. Maybe I should work on that. So I pulled it out, and I didn't pull this out until halfway through January. And I just pulled out a couple skeins and started crocheting up squares. And I've done like 3 a day since then. So I have 31 squares for 31 days in January, and my intention is to do 28 more for February. Now I might not do it every day, so I think I'm going to stick to like either do 3 a day every day until they're done, or do every couple of days do 2 or 3. But the intention is to add. I love using this shelf striping. Oh, this is actually from last time. I used that to remember what I was doing because I'm not a crocheter. But I love that I just literally pick up and start where I left off. If I have some left from the old skein, from the skein that I just finished, I'll just throw it into the center of the next one that I start. I'm trying to find, let me see if I have an example of that. I think this is one. So like I had taken the end of this skein, threw it into the center of this, and then added a new one, and it looks great. So I really don't think you can go wrong with these. And so my intention, because I do plan to crochet up most of the fleechy that I have, is to just keep making squares until I get tired of it. I do plan to do like a border color on each of these when I attach them. So I'm just gonna go until I don't feel like going anymore. Probably until like one of my, because I have two cubes filled with lychee yarn. So probably until at least one of my cubes are gone or filled up with squares. And then I'll start attaching them. And I can probably get, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 blankets out of all the lychee that I have. And it's gonna be great. Yeah, and I'm just randomly picking. So I figure when I start putting them together, I can pick out specific colors for specific people. So like my dad, obviously I would do more like rustic colors, and my stepmom, I would do more like bright colorful pops, and Jason would be probably mostly purples and greens because that's what he likes. But anyway, so these ones are blocked. I have like a little blocker that I bought because I don't crochet. This is literally all the crochet I have other than like a crochet scrappy blanket I have. But I, of course, immediately needed all of the tools to be able to block these. So these will all get blocked, and I'll start working on February's. So that was a lot. So I said I didn't have a lot of crafting, but I got a lot done, and it's been great. So I'm going to move into life updates now. I had mentioned I started a new job that I wasn't sure, or I was getting ready to start a new job. So I've since started that new job. I have slowly been transitioning from my old job because they didn't have a replacement for some of the role responsibilities that I had. So I've still been helping them out part-time. But I love my new boss. She's awesome. She's a few years older than me, and she just started working at my company about 7 months ago. And so she brings with her a lot of like knowledge and experience from outside of the organization, which I think is great. And I'm excited to like learn from her because all of my adult working experience has been with the same company. So I don't really have any business experience outside of that. So I'm excited to like learn from her and work with her. And I'm excited about some of the things that some of like her vision for my role. I'm the first person in this role, so it's a brand new role. So we're kind of like working through job responsibilities together, which is fun. And she also mentioned that I can continue to work from home for as long as corporate lets me. So I am still working from home, so all those sweaters that I knit, they'll still get good use, but it's not as much of a rush to get them done. So there's that. Since I stopped recording before my WIP parade, I got really into hiking. So me and my stepdad did some hiking and camping events, and I just went full in. I was every day until we started having bad weather. I was not every day, but a couple times a week, I was out hiking. I gotten up to hiking like at 9 miles at a time because my eventual goal is to be able to hike the Grand Canyon. So, which is like 27 and a half-ish miles, depending on which route you take. And I hadn't decided if I wanted to backpack or hike it. So if you hike it, you'll do it obviously in a day. So you'd get there at like 4 a.m. and then just go until you're done, which you probably won't be done until, I don't know, from my pace, probably after midnight the next day. But regardless, there's backpacking, there's hiking it, which I honestly don't think that is the safest method for me, just because I know that I would be rushing myself. It would be dark. I'm still not sure if I'm going to be able to find a partner to do it with. My husband is not as into the idea of hiking and backpacking as I am. And I do have a couple of friends that are interested, but they're more like curious interested than like committed interested. So, and quite frankly, I haven't really done any like acquisition of like what you would need or planning of the pre-trips before the actual trip, because I would like to do parts of it before I do the full hike. But regardless, also I feel like with me rushing, being after dark, potentially being by myself, like I think that is kind of dangerous. And so while I would love to just like do it and get it done, because that's the way I am as a person, I'm like, I'm going to do this thing and I'm just going to do it and get it done. I don't think that it's actually like smart to do it in one day for myself. So that leaves backpacking. So backpacking takes a lot more planning, a lot more equipment, but it's safer, and I can convince my husband to go with me, because while he is like, I'm not doing 27 miles in one day, he is like, I will do 27 miles over the course of 2 or 3 days. So we would actually have to plan to reserve campsites ahead of time. We would have to figure out how we're going to get our equipment there, what equipment we want to take with us, and do some practice trips around hometown before we can actually plan a trip out there to do it. So this is like a very long-term couple of year plan. But I've gotten really into it. So those are all things that I'm thinking through. So in the meantime, I've been getting more involved with my local metro parks. So it's called Five River Metro Parks, and it's a huge organization. They have tons of parks and hiking trails and all kinds of different resources available. And I started volunteering. So I've done some volunteer training for backcountry, front country hiking and backpacking so that I can help assist them with their programs. So when they put together an overnight backpacking trip, I can come and help assist, like, because they have like backpacking 101, 102, 103 classes. So I've taken the 101, 102 class. Well, now they need people to help the paid folks with the metro parks with those trips, and especially as they continue to build their classes out. So 103 is coming up in the spring, which I'm hoping to take myself, not just volunteer for, which is actually like a 2-day overnight. Actually, I think it's a 1-day 10-mile hike. So it's an overnight backpacking hike that's about 10 miles. So I've learned a lot about like camp cooking and tent setup and first aid and water filtration and like how to pack a pack and like what to bring through taking those classes. And so it's nice for them to be offering more of those classes to a larger group of people, but they need people who have been through that already to help the folks that are new. So I've been volunteering and taking training classes for that. So I just finished my last one. And then along with that comes some other volunteer opportunities. So they rent out camping equipment and hiking equipment. So they need people to set up the equipment, collect the equipment, clean the equipment. So there's volunteer opportunities there. So different things like that. And through doing that training, I found out that there is I've known about, it's called Carriage Hill. And I've known about Carriage Hill since I was little. You know, we would take school field trips there. But I did not realize they were part of the Five River Metro Park system. But essentially, it's a farm that you can go to. It's an old farm that you can go to that they still run as if it's in the 1800s. Now, they don't do it specific to the 1800s. For example, the original owners had like a very specific religion. So if they were practicing exactly the way the owners ran it, then there would be certain holiday things that they wouldn't be able to do. And also they just want to be more inclusive for the time of the day. So they don't make it exclusively like, if you walk in, it is the 1800s. But what they do is they have volunteers and staff that dress in the 1800s, get up outfits. They have a lot of knowledge about the 1800s and that farm and the family that owned it in particular. And they do demonstrations. So they have a woodworking building, a blacksmith building. They have a fully functioning farm where they grow a ton of crops. And they do demonstrations with that, and they, teach about that. They have a lot of farm animals, and they have a textiles building. So in the textiles building, they have the crafts, right? So they have knitting, spinning, crochet, weaving, sewing. And so they do demonstrations, and they also do side-by-side instructional things. So I found out about this because they said, like, what are some things you like to do in your free time? And I was like, I like to craft. And they're like, hey, we need volunteers at Carriage Hill to help us demonstrate and to knit period clothing. So my first volunteer shift with that is this coming Saturday, which is kind of exciting. I just went through the qualification process, which wasn't hard, but I'm not a good test taker. You had to actually like learn about the specifics of like who originally owned the farm, like what kind of animals and crops they had. And like that way, like if you're asked these questions while you're demonstrating, you're able to answer. And so it took me some time to study that and pass the quiz, which I only took the quiz once and I passed it the first time and I missed one question. So not too bad. But anyway, so I had to get that qualification. So my first shift is this Saturday. And then in addition to that, when I was volunteering at the other park for taking the training for the backcountry hiking, they were like, hey, they're called animal ambassadors. And what they are, they're animals that if you come and visit the wildlife center, or if the wildlife center goes to like a local school district, they'll take the animal ambassadors to show off to the children. So like they have a hawk, they have an owl, They have a couple of birds. They have turtles and geckos and all kinds of stuff. And so they need volunteers to help clean out the cages, take basic animal care, take care of the animals, feed the animals, etc. And I was like, I love animals. I would love to do this. So I originally signed up for the training, and then I started watching the training video, which is like the first of like 4 steps for the training. And they have snakes, and I did not realize this. And so when I went to go do the training and I saw the snake, and I was like, I don't know if I can do it. And so I have pet snakes at the zoo before. I am not a big snake person. My biggest fear is that I would be caring for the snake on my own, and and something would happen that would like freak me out, and I would either drop it and it would escape, or I would drop it and I would hurt it. And so I don't want to be that person. And when you're signing up for these volunteer positions, you are caring for them on your own. You're unsupervised during those times. And so if I don't feel comfortable with myself doing that, then I'm like, I don't feel comfortable like taking on that responsibility, which I think is the appropriate thing to do. Now, they do say if you're a little squeamish, they'll work with you to get more comfortable to see if you can take it on. And that might be something I look into in the future, because I don't want to live my life afraid of snakes, but it's just not something I'm ready to take on right now. So, so I was like, I'm going to withdraw myself from this training process for now. And then they emailed me and they were like, hey, you said you like working with animals and you're signed up to volunteer at Carriage Hill for the textiles building. Have you thought about the farm chores? Because you get to take care of animals there too, and they're farm animals. I was like, that is a great idea, because they have horses, pigs, chickens, goats, and sheep. And you get to clean out their stalls, feed them, groom them. Yeah, so I was like, that sounds great. Let's sign up. So I have my first shadowing experience with that 2 weeks from tomorrow. So it's going to be busy, like getting into the volunteer swing of things this month. It's Jason and I's anniversary on the 16th, so we'll have been married for 17 years. 17 years. Yeah, I feel old. So that, starting a new job, it's going to be a very busy February. February is already a short month. January feels like it lasts forever. February feels like it's a blink of the eye. So I mentioned in my shout outs, Natasha, so she mentioned some stitchy events. So I'm looking into a few of those. So there's one in Cincinnati at a bookstore. There's like a sip and stitch. There's one in Dayton that is actually a bit closer to me than the one in Cincinnati, that I'm excited to try to join their next one. I found out the day before their January meetup about it, so I'm gonna wait, and if I have time, I'll go in February. February's busy, so it might not be until March. I just found out about it today. So Needle, Ink, and Thread, which is a modern sewing shop in Dayton. So they do a ton of sewing classes, which I never heard of them before now, which is super unfortunate, because I saw some of the classes they offer, and they look great. So I've already got a list of a few in March and April that I want to sign up for. But on March 8th, International Women's Day, they're doing a hand embroidery class, and I am here for it. So I just signed up with a few friends this morning, so we're going to go and take that. I think there are about 10 spots left. So if you're interested, make sure in your local to Dayton area, make sure you go and jump on that. Again, it is Needle, Ink, and Thread in Dayton, Ohio, and March 8th, International Women's Day, hand embroidery class. So hopefully the information is here for you guys if I remember. So wanted to throw that in as something I will be doing coming up in March and February, hopefully February, March. That is my life update. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry if I rambled too much or talked too fast. I had a lot to share. It was fun to get it out. I have purchased some equipment to try to do some Stitch With Me videos. And I think how I would do it is I would record it and do voiceovers, because I think I like that method the most. Okay, so that is it. That was a lot. Thank you guys for joining me today. I hope that you liked the video. If you liked, I hate asking this because I think it's so weird, but if you liked the video, please subscribe so that you know when my next video comes out. I love this cross-stitching community. I love the knitting community. I love being a part of a community that understands the crazy crafty. And yeah, I'm excited to keep going with it. So thank you guys for joining me, and I hope you guys have a wonderful couple of weeks. Bye.